Hi, I hope you are fine. Welcome to this presentation from this channel. In this presentation, we are going to discuss about biogeographic processes or processes that are involved in biogeography. There are 6 major processes in which we concentrate much on them when studying biogeography. These are speciation, extinction, adaptation, evolution, dispersal, and colonization. These processes interrelate each other. They depend on each other. One process can influence another process. One process can affect another processes. Now, we are going to start these processes one after another in detail. Now, to start with the meaning of biogeography. What is biogeography? Before defining it, let us interpret the term itself, biogeography. If we look at the term biogeography, we can find that there are two words which are coined together to form a single word, which is biogeography. These words are bio and geography. Bio and geography. To start with the bio means life. And when we are talking about life, we are normally talking about the life of living organism. Now, in this case, the term bio stands on behalf of living organism. Another term is geography. There are so many definitions of geography, but they are finally all related to distribution of features on the earth. So in a simple description, we can say that biogeography refers to the distribution of living organisms on the earth, or distribution of life on the earth. So now, what is biogeography? Biogeography is a branch of geography, particularly the branch of physical geography, that deal with the spatial and temporal distributional pattern of plants and animals on the earth. Now, we are talking about spatial and temporal distribution. When we say spatial distribution, we mean distribution of organisms over space. As we may find, some places there are wild animals, while other places there is no wild animals. Or some places there are a certain kind of plants in which we cannot find it in another places. That means the organisms on the surface of the earth are not evenly distributed, are unevenly distributed. For example, the lion as among of the wild animals are not evenly distributed over the surface of the earth. So spatial distribution means distribution of organisms over space on the surface of the earth. Also, temporal distribution. When we say temporal distribution, we mean distribution of organisms over time. As we may find previously, in a particular area, there were wild organisms, but nowadays there is no wild organism. Or in a particular region, there were a certain kind of organism, maybe wild organism or certain kind of plants, but nowadays there is no such kind of organism or such kind of wild organism or such kind of plants. Or sometimes other places were not occupied by a certain kind of organism, but nowadays are occupied. That is what we call temporal distribution, distribution of organism over time. The distribution of organism on the surface of the earth vary as time goes. And in this case, we are concentrating much on plants and animals. Why? Because these are the dominant living organism on the earth. Although there are other organisms such as bacteria and viruses. Now, as our discussion is on the biogeographic process, what does the term biogeographic process mean? Biogeographic process refers to the process that influence or shape the distribution of plants and animals on the earth. We said biogeography refers to the distribution of plants and animals on the earth. So, what shape or what influence this distribution, what affect this distribution is what you call biogeographic processes. Now, let us start the first biogeographic processes, which is speciation. What is speciation? Speciation, this is a process which normally takes a long period of time. It does not occur within a short period of time. It takes many years. It is a process that involves the formation of new and distinct species, normally from existing species. A new species is formed out of existing species on the surface of the earth. Remember, a species refers to the group of organisms that can interbreed and produce fertile and viable offspring. When I say offspring, I mean a descendant. For instance, for the case of human being, a child is a descendant. Your child is your descendant. Your grandchildren is your descendants. So similarly to other organisms, they have also descendants. So the organism of the same species must produce viable and fertile offspring, while the organism of different species cannot produce viable and fertile offspring. Or it may be viable but not fertile or infertile. Or it may be fertile but not viable. Although there are some circumstances, for example, health problems or problems related to health, which may lead to the release of infertile offspring by the organism of the same species. But the species concept describes that a species is a group of organisms that can interbreed and produce fertile and viable offspring. Now, when the organism of the same species cannot interbreed and produce fertile and viable offspring, are considered as different species. There are some circumstances that occur on the earth which may lead to the formation of different species out of one species. That means the species are no longer able to interbreed and produce viable and fertile offspring. For example, if several changes on the earth occur, the organism undergo the change in their genetic composition, in which when they meet again, they may not be able to interbreed and produce a fertile and viable offspring. Now, in this case, we we have got two different species out of one species. For example, suppose the organism of the same species have divided into two or more groups, and each group have moved to a different environmental condition or different climatic condition. This organism may undergo change in their genetic composition differently, in which when they meet again, they may not be able to interbreed and produce a fertile and viable offspring. And in this case, we cannot consider them as the organism of the same species. That we have got two or more species out of a single species. That is what we call speciation. Speciation related to change in the genetic composition of an organism, change in their gene. Now, there are types or ways of speciation. In these types, we are going to understand now how a new species is formed, what circumstances happen which lead to the formation of new and distinct species from the existing species. These types are allopatric speciation, peripatric speciation, parapatric speciation, and sympatric speciation. Now, to start with allopatric speciation, what is allopatric speciation? This is a type of speciation whereby a species is formed as a result of isolation led by separation of individual by geographical features. A geographical feature may be water bodies, mountains, or any other geographical feature which may separate organism. Now, the individual of the same species may be separated by the formation of a new geographical features between them. For example, suppose the organism occupying a certain geographical area, due to several processes, particularly geomorphological processes and other processes. Geomorphological process may lead to the formation of a mountain between the animals' habitat, between the geographical area occupied by the animals. It means the mountain will divide the organism into two groups. One group to one side of the mountain and another group to another side of the mountain. When the environmental changes occur, maybe the climatic change occur, this organism may undergo change in their genetic composition differently, in which if they meet again, they may not be able to produce a fertile and viable offspring. And in this case, we cannot consider them as an organism of the same species. So we have different species out of few or single species. So we say, when the species are separated, they may undergo genotype and phenotype changes. Now there are two words, genotype and phenotype. When I say genotype change, I mean the change of the organism inside their body. While phenotype means the change of the organism outside their body. Maybe their body shape, their body size, or physical appearance. But genotype involves the change inside their body. So if the organism undergo genotype and phenotype change, that when they meet again, they are no longer able to interbreed and produce fertile and viable offspring. Now we cannot consider them as the organism of the same species. So we have different species out of a single or few species. So we can see the illustration of allopatric here. These are organisms occupying the same geographical space, in which a geographic feature have separated them. The water body have separated them into two groups. Due to several changes which occur to these groups, they may undergo change in their genetic composition differently. For example, maybe this group moved to the cold condition while this group moved to the warm condition. It means their change in the genetic composition will be different due to different in climate or weather condition, in which when they meet again, they may not be able to interbreed and produce a fertile and viable offspring. And in that case, we have get two species out of one species. Two species out of one species. That is what we call speciation. Another type of speciation is peripatric speciation. Now, this is similar to allopatric speciation, meaning that it is also influenced by the separation of organisms of the same species by the formation of geographical features or by the geographical features which were previously existed. But the difference is that one group is larger than the other. Remember, in allopatric speciation, the two groups are similar in size. But in this case, one group is larger than the another group, as you can see in the illustration here. At first, the organism occupied the same geographical space, the organism of the same species with green color, but the geographical feature divided them here into two groups, but one group is smaller than the another group. This group is smaller than this group. That at the end we have got two species due to several changes. The species with green color and the species with blue color. And this takes a long period of time. It does not happen for a short period of time. That's why we say it occurs to the descendants. Now, another type of speciation is parapatric speciation. Now, this does not influenced by the geographical features. This happens when the organism occupy a large geographical area. Thus, the species meet only the nearby species, such that species cannot meet a distant species. Now, a species cannot interbreed a distant species. And remember, a large geographical area may consist of different climatic or weather conditions. So, due to this different climatic and weather condition, it means the organism may undergo change in the genetic composition differently due to the fact that the geographical area consists of different climatic or weather condition or any other environmental condition. So a species meets only a nearby species. So the distant species may undergo change in their genetic composition. But remember, this change happened to their descendants because this takes a long period of time. It does not happen to within one generation. It happens for after many generations of an organism, leading to the formation of new and distinct species. as we can see in the illustration. At first, we can find there are few species occupying a very large geographic area. Due to change in their genetic composition, due to the fact that they occupy a large geographic area, in which a large geographic area may have different climatic or environmental changes, in which at the end we have got more species. See, there is a species with green color, species with dark green, species with black color, and species with blue color. So we have many species out of few species. Remember, this happened to the descendants. That's why we say daughter species with hybrids. These are origin species. And this is what we call parapatric speciation. Now, the last type of speciation is sympatric speciation. This is a type of speciation whereby a new species is formed when the population split into two reproductively isolated communities while occupying the same geographic area, but the area is a small area. In parapatric speciation, we said the organism occupy a large area, but in this case, the organism occupy a small area. And this happens mostly for the insect. That's why we say a good example is insects. The insect may occupy a small geographic area, but they may undergo speciation. As we know, the insect inhabits the plants, inhabits the trees. So the insect from one tree may not be able to meet with the insect from the another trees. So due to several changes which happen to many generations, remember these changes associated with the change in the genetic composition of this insect. So if this insect from different trees, if they meet again, they may not be able to produce a fertile and viable offspring. And in that case, we can get more species out of few or one species. As you can see in the illustration, the insect occupying different trees. Thus, at the end, we have got different species out of few species. That is what we call sympatric speciation. And this marks the end of the first biogeographic processes. Now let us move to another biogeographic process, which is extinction. What is extinction? This is a process that involves the total and permanent disappearance of a certain species on the earth. Now, thing to consider here is total. That means a species has totally disappeared, and the permanent has totally disappeared but permanently, such that we cannot find such kind of species again on the surface of the earth. Means that all species of such group have died. When the organism of a particular species disappear permanently on the earth, nor even a single organism of such kind of species remain on the earth, we say this is extinction. For example, there is a species which were known as dinosaur. This was the species that was believed to exist on the earth but disappeared due to extinction. That we cannot find even a single dinosaur on the earth because all dinosaurs have disappeared, has total and permanent disappeared, has died. That is what we call extinction. And extinction may be extinction of a single species with a specific period of time, but there can be extinction of more than one species within a specific period of time. And this extinction of more than one species is known as mass extinction. Now let us move to another biogeographic process, which is adaptation. Remember, this process interrelate and depend on each other. One process can influence another process. So let us discuss adaptation. What is adaptation? Adaptation is a process whereby organisms develop features that enable them to survive or that improve the ability of an organism to survive on the environment. Sometimes the organism develop features. It may be their body features or their behavior so as to survive on the environment. Remember, so as to survive on the environment, especially on the changing or changed environment. Suppose the environment went on changing or undergoing change. The organism that inhabit such environment may develop features which help them to survive, to continue to survive on such environment. The organism which will succeed to develop features that may help them to survive on environment will continue to survive, while the organism which will fail to develop such adaptive features to the environment may undergo extinction. For example, we are now experiencing the climatic changes. The organism which will adapt, which will develop features, it may be behavior or physical features, to adopt the conditions that exist now, will continue to survive. But the organism that will fail to develop such features may undergo extinction. And the adaptation, it can be change of their physical, morphological, and behavioral features. So adaptive feature may be physical features, maybe their body structure, may be morphological or behavior of an organism. And in this case, every organism, regardless the change of the environment or change in the climate, has a certain feature. It may be behavior or body features which help it or help them to survive on the environment in which they live. For example, the organisms that live in the very cold condition, they have a certain adaptive features which help them to cope with the cold condition. For example, there are kind of organism, and these are birds known as penguin. Spelling is P-I-G-U-I-N, penguin. These are birds which have the behavior of walking together or moving together, or they accumulate together. Why they accumulate together? They accumulate together so as to share their warmth to overcome the cold condition. So their behavior of accumulating together is their adaptive feature to survive on the cold condition. And if you take an organism from one kind of the environment, from one environmental condition to another environmental condition, it will develop a certain features which will help it to survive on such new environment. This may be also revealed to the human being. If a human being move maybe from the warm condition to the cold condition, his or her some behavior will change so as to adopt the new condition. For example, maybe for the cold condition, a human being may change his or her own wearing style. Maybe he will start wearing heavy clothes, maybe jacket and other clothes, so as to overcome the cold condition. So the wearing of heavy clothes is an adaptive feature to cold condition. That is what we call adaptation. Adaptation is a process whereby organisms develop features that help them to survive on the environment, or that increase their ability. Sometimes the organism they may have ability to survive on the environment, but they may develop features to increase their ability so as to be more resilient on the environment. That is what we call adaptation. It's among of the biogeographic processes. So another biogeographic process is evolution. What is evolution? In a simple description, we can say that evolution is just the gradual change of something. In this case, we are not talking about evolution of everything, because so many things undergo evolution. For example, even the mountain undergo evolution. But in this case, we are talking about evolution of organism. That is what we call biological evolution. Evolution of living organism. So what is evolution in this case? Evolution refers to the change of the genetic composition of an organism over time. So the important thing to consider here is change in the genetic composition of an organism over time. A biological evolution normally involves a change in the genetic composition of an organism. Remember, when we were discussing about speciation, we discussed about the change in the genetic composition. You can connect the concept now, how these biogeographic processes interact each other. Evolution can lead to speciation. Speciation can lead to evolution. So they depend on each other. So evolution takes a longer time. It's not the process within a short period of time. It takes many years. That's why we say it's the gradual process that take many years. It may be millions of years. So evolution, as the evolution involves the change in the genetic composition, may lead to speciation, may lead to the formation of new species. May lead to the formation of new species, or new species are evolved through evolution of pre-existing organism. For example, it is believed that the human being, in which the scientific name is Homo sapiens, is a result of evolution of the late chimpanzee. So the human being evolved from the late chimpanzee through evolution associated with speciation. A new species, which is human being, evolved from the late chimpanzees through evolution, and the evolution also influenced by the change of the environmental condition. It may be climatic condition or any other change on the environment. As time goes, the genetic composition of an organism change. The genetic composition of an organism changes. The concept of evolution verifies the statement that now there is a statement saying that all organisms are originated from a single ancestor. So all organisms are descendants of a single ancestor. Through evolution, other species evolved from a single ancestor. Through evolution associated with speciation, other species evolved from a single ancestor. The theory of evolution describes that a single ancestor was once existed, while other species were originated from it. So we are descendants of a single ancestor. We are descendants of a single species or a single organism. As you can see, the human being are descendant of the late chimpanzee. As you can see in the illustration here, at the bottom we have a single ancestor in which other organisms originate from it. Other species originate from it. So all of these organisms are descendants of a single ancestor at the bottom. Now this is a simple evolution trees, and this is a complex one. As you can see, a single ancestor with a lot of descendants, a lot of organisms, a lot of species. So we are all originated from a single ancestor. But this take a long period of time, millions of years. It is not just within a short period of time. It is within a long period of time. So another biogeographic process is dispersal. What is dispersal? Dispersal, this is a process that involves the movement of an organism away from the place of their origin to current area. Meaning that other organisms are now occupying a geographical area which is not their place of origin. So they moved from the place of their origin to another place. For example, suppose the human being start to create settlement on the forest. It means the wild animals will move from such area to another area. So they move from the place of their origin to another area. That is what we call dispersal. An organism move to another area out of their place of their origin, where they lived since time memorial. And dispersal influences the distribution of organisms over time. As we may find, some organisms have moved from their place of their origin over time due to several changes. It may be climatic changes and other changes, or due to expansion of human activities. So dispersal is divided into active and passive dispersal. When we say active and passive dispersal, these are type of dispersal. Let us start with active dispersal. What is active dispersal? Active dispersal is a type of dispersal in which the organism use their own energy to move from the area of their origin. It means the organism have moved themselves. They have not moved by other organism or other things, non-living organism on the environment. They have moved themselves. Remember, there are some organisms which may be moved by other thing or other organism. For example, the wind, the blowing wind, may move the plant seed from one area to another. It means the plant has moved from the place of their origin to another place by the influence of wind. So in the case of active, an organism move itself or move themselves using their own energy. For example, flying bird. A flying bird or any other organism which can move may move themselves from the place of their origin to another places. That is what we call active. Contrary to passive dispersal, in which the organism does not use their own energy to move from the area of their origin. The organism move to another area away from the place of their origin by the influence of other thing or other organism on the environment. If you take the wild organism from one area to another, that is passive dispersal, such that the organism, such wild animals, had not used their own energy to move to another area. It is influenced by agents like wind. As I said earlier, wind can move the plant seed to another areas or other organism to another area or other organism to another area. Also, the moving water can move organism to another area, especially the aquatic organism. But also other abiotic and biotic component of the environment that can move organism. Dispersal may be influenced by the change of the habitat. Sometimes the organism may move to their place of their origin due to change of the habitat. Maybe the habitat have started to fail to provide the basic needs like water, shelters, food, and other needs to organism. The organism may move to other areas. So they move from their place of their origin to another place. And this may be this is influenced by the change on the environment. The change of habitat influenced by the change of the environment, particularly the climatic change. Or, for example, the change in the vegetation cover can influence the organism to move from such area to another area. Now, let us see the last biogeographic process, which is colonization. What is colonization? And in this case, we are not talking about colonization meaning that a stronger nation rule the weaker nation, or a stronger nation conquer the weaker nation, but rather we are talking about biological colonization, meaning that the organism occupy a new habitat. Now, what is colonization in this case? Colonization, this is a process whereby organisms occupy a new habitat followed by successful establishment of a community. So there are two things. Firstly, organisms occupy a new habitat, but secondly, they succeed to establish settlements to survive. Sometimes the organism may occupy a new habitat, but they may fail to survive in such habitat. That is not colonization. Colonization must involve both occupation of a new habitat and the successful survival of an organism. So, occupation of a new habitat followed by successful establishment of a community. And in this case, the habitat was previously not occupied. The habitat was not occupied previously, but the organism has now occupied, and this this area, the area which were previously not occupied, might be unsuitable habitat previously, but it have changed to suitable habitat due to several changes on the environment, particularly climatic change and the other changes on the environmental condition. And this marks the end of our presentation. So please subscribe to this channel. Our channel is known as Geography Conception. Please subscribe. Your success is my business. Please subscribe to this channel, the Geography Conception channel. In this channel, we discuss different topics, different matters, or any other issues related to geography, and it is both human and physical geography, but also other concepts which are not part of geography, I mean are part of other discipline, but they are related to geography. Sometimes a certain concept or a certain topic may not be the part of geographical discipline, but it may relate, its concept may relate to the geographical knowledge. So we also discuss those kind of concepts in this channel. This is a Geography Conception channel, so please subscribe, share this channel link to your fellow students, to your fellow scholars, or any other people which may be interested with this geographical knowledge, with this interesting knowledge. So also you may comment and like. Your comment may be questions, suggestion, criticism, or any other point of view. Otherwise, I wish you the nice moment and Thank you for listening me.